Yep, we're just trying. This is what the jeans looked before I bleached them. I decided to bleach the left side since it was the side that did not have the zipper on it and it would just be easier that way. Then begin to tape. Align the tape perfectly with the middle seam and make sure the tape is thick since it will stop the bleach from passing through. The tape isn't a perfect barrier, but it definitely helps. Just make sure you add a lot of layers and the tape is well stuck to the jean. You want to do this both on the front and on the back. Then put the non-bleach side in a bag. This will assure you that no bleach goes onto the other side. We first tried to spray the bleach and then rub it with our hands. We didn't use gloves and that was a big mistake. Remember to use gloves so your fingers don't burn. It takes time. You have to rub and bleach. Try to make sure the bleach is well spread out through the whole jean. To be honest, we had done a lot of research before after seeing this trend on TikTok. However, we thought it was way harder than what it really seemed. The bleach seemed to be very patchy and it just wasn't turning out the way we wanted it to be, but we kept going. Once we flipped it over, we realized that some bleach at the front had gone to the back, which made it patchy. This is why the back was harder for me, but we kept going even though we had already lost a little bit of hope. The jean seemed soaked with bleach and it smelled horrible. However, it still had a lot of blue on it and it was still coming out patchy. The front had turned into a weird yellowish greenish color, so we decided to stop there and just let it rest for around 15 minutes. We then added a little more bleach and decided to hose it off with water. Then we added soap into a bucket of water just to make sure that all the bleach was off and we could put it around without worrying it would stain anything. The color did not change here and it still looked very patchy and very yellow. We were extremely disappointed because after researching a lot, we thought this was going to be way easier and just the back looked wrong. It still had jean and it was just very patchy and blurry and it was not my personal taste at all. And the front, even though it did turn better than the back, it was just a weird yellowish color. We waited a few days and decided to research some more. This is what it looked like after the first try, and now on the second try, we're going to try to dip the jean into a bucket instead of spraying the bleach on it. So we poured a cup of water and a cup of bleach. The reason why we dissolved it with water was because the first time we tried it, the bleach was so strong that it was actually kind of ruined the quality of the jeans. And then we just stuck the jeans in the bucket and mixed it. We left the jeans soaking in the bleach for around 15 minutes. This method was not my favorite at all. It was just extremely hard to make sure the bleach did not jump to the other side, and although it did kind of help with the patches, I felt like the mess and the stress was definitely not worth it. Then we set the jean in the sun for a little while before we began to wash it with water, and as you can see, it still had some patches, but it definitely had gotten better. The patches that I didn't want were still there, so I decided to get a toothbrush, dip it in bleach, and then try to scrub it off. But honestly, it felt like it was just ruining the jean, and it didn't seem to work at all. After around 10 minutes of just scrubbing and seeing no difference, I gave up and I just decided to wash it off with a hose. I then put the jean into a bucket of water with laundry soap just to make sure there was no bleach left. I left it outside to dry, and as you can see, some of the patches were still there, but it had definitely improved from the first time. And then we waited 24 hours. I wanted to include this clip to show what I personally thought was the hardest part of the DIY. Bleach is really hard to work with, and since the tape doesn't work as a perfect barrier, getting a straight line between both of the legs just wasn't possible. The jeans turned out semi-okay, just not fully what I expected. Some of the spots were still yellowish, brownish, and bluish for some reason. And at the bottom of the jean where most of the bleach was, the jean started to kind of change texture and it wasn't fully jean, so I feel like the bleach kind of damaged the material. And this is my final look. This DIY was definitely harder than I expected. The bleach didn't fully do what I expected it to do, and maybe it was the type of jean I used since it wasn't 100% jean, but it was definitely fun to try, and I think if you keep an open mind that it's not going to be pure white and it's not going to be exactly how you want it, it can give a cool look. Remember to subscribe, like, and comment other DIYs you want us to try.